Hello, everyone. I'm Bob Keyser. This is the Son of Man Urantia Project. Today we continue Chapter 18, the 12 Apostles, with Part 3 of 5 from Son of Man Urantia, the Life and Teachings of Jesus from the Urantia book. Grab your copy on Amazon, hit like and subscribe if the Master's light is touching your heart, and then sit back and marvel at the most thrilling story to ever unfold in the cosmos. Chapter 18, the 12 Apostles, Part 3 of 5, Philip and Nathaniel. Philip the Curious. Philip was the fifth apostle chosen. He was brought into the group when he and Nathaniel happened to meet Jesus, John, James, Peter, and Andrew on their way to Cana from John's camp on the Jordan River. Philip was 27 years old, lived in Bethsaida, and was recently married, but had no children yet. He knew about Jesus, but it had never occurred to him that he was special until Jesus looked at him and said, "Follow me." He was also influenced by the fact that the other four had already accepted Jesus as the deliverer. Philip earned the nickname that meant more or less curiosity because he always wanted to be shown everything. It was not that he was dull. He was just a commonplace, matter-of-fact individual who could not visualize ideas as some of the other apostles could. Philip, appointed steward of the apostles, ensured their sustenance and daily needs with a steadfast diligence. He did his duties well. He was thorough, methodical, and systematic, with a good handle on the math needed for his job. Philip was the next to the oldest of a family of 3 boys and 4 girls. His family also fished for a living, and after the resurrection, Philip baptized all of his family into the kingdom. His mother came from a mediocre family, but his father was a deep thinker and a capable man in many respects. Though Philip was not destined for grand deeds, he excelled in humble tasks, performing them with profound dedication. He managed the apostles' commissary efficiently and intelligently. There were only a few times in 4 years that he did not have enough food on hand to feed the group. Philip's strengths lay in his steadfast reliability and methodical precision, though he was hindered by a profound lack of visionary insight. He was mathematical but not constructive, being more the average, commonplace man of the times. But this was good for the people to see, and it gave them the courage to believe. Philip was like most of them, and it brought the masses important peace of mind to see that the normal, everyday person like themselves was included in Jesus' counsels on the affairs of the kingdom. Jesus, in turn, learned how our human minds operate as he patiently listened to Philip's foolish questions and dealt with his need to be shown proof of everything. The trait that Philip admired the most, or in fact actually worshipped about Jesus, was his generosity. He could never find anything about Jesus that was in any way small, stingy, or niggardly. Philip was not an impressive man. He was often known as Philip of Bethsaida, where Peter and Andrew live. Philip had almost no ability to visualize the possibilities of any given situation. He was not pessimistic. He simply did not have a mind complex enough to see ahead. He also lacked much in the way of spiritual insight. It did not bother him in the least to interrupt Jesus in the middle of a deep discussion to ask what the others thought was a foolish question. But Jesus never scolded Philip for interrupting him or asking his questions. Jesus knew that for Philip these were honest questions, and that if he was to reprimand him even one time for asking them, it would hurt his feelings to the point that he would never again feel free to ask another. Jesus knew that on his worlds of time and space, there were many billions of similar people, and he wanted them all to freely come to him with their problems and questions. Jesus' greatest interest was in knowing people, all types of people, and he was actually more interested in Philip's questions than in the sermon he may have been preaching when interrupted. Philip was not a good public speaker, though he was persuasive and successful in his personal work. He did not get discouraged easily and kept at whatever job he had until it was done. Philip possessed the rare gift of beckoning with, "Come," as when he gently urged Nathaniel, his first convert, to meet Jesus, simply saying, "Come and see." He was not a dogmatic preacher who told people to go and do something. Instead, in all situations, he would tell people, "Come with me, and I will show you the way." And that is ever the best way to teach. Even parents can learn from Philip, and instead of telling their children what not to do, they would get better results telling them to come with me, and I will show you a better way. Philip's inability to adapt to a new situation was shown when the Greeks came to him at Jerusalem and wanted to see Jesus. Philip would have said to any Jew asking such a question, "Come." But these men were foreigners, and Philip could not remember any instructions on what to do in this case. The only thing he could think of was to tell the chief, Andrew, and then they both went and took the Greeks to Jesus. Likewise, when Philip went to Samaria to preach and baptize people like Jesus had instructed him to do, he would not touch those believers as a sign of them receiving the Spirit of truth. John and Peter did this later when they came down from Jerusalem for the mother church to watch Philip's work. After Jesus' resurrection, Philip helped with the reorganization of the 12 apostles, and he was the first to go out and baptize people outside of the immediate Jewish ranks. He was successful working with the Samaritans and in all of his later efforts on behalf of the kingdom. Philip, the one-time steward of the 12, was a mighty man in the kingdom and won souls wherever he went. His wife, who was a member of the women's corps, worked with him spreading the gospel after they had to flee the persecutions in Jerusalem. She was a fearless woman, and when Philip was finally crucified at Hierapolis, she stood at the foot of his cross, encouraging him to announce the glad tidings, even to his murderers. When Philip's strength failed and he could no longer speak, she began to recite the story of salvation by faith in Jesus until a group of angry Jews stoned her to death. Their eldest daughter, Leah, continued their work, later becoming the renowned prophetess of Hierapolis. Now, a quick word from the heart. If this is resonating with you, if it's stirring something deep, please like, subscribe, comment your thoughts, and share with someone who might need the light. Peace on earth starts with us serving humanity for the sake of God, at home and beyond. Your simple actions help spread the Master's truth. Thank you. Now back to chapter 18, part 3. Honest Nathaniel. Nathaniel was the last of the original 6 apostles chosen by Jesus personally. When he and Philip met Jesus and the others on the road to Cana, he was 25 years old, making him the second youngest of the apostles after John Zebedee. He was also the youngest of his family of 7 siblings, who by this time had all died or married. Nathaniel was single and the only one of the children still living with his parents, who were old and weak and relied on his support. Nathaniel and Philip had entered a couple business ventures in the past, and he was thinking about becoming a merchant to make his living. He was the best educated of the apostles, except for Judas Iscariot. It was the other apostles who gave Nathaniel his nickname that meant, more or less, that he was an honest, sincere man that would not trick a person when doing business. This was his most important virtue. His greatest shortcoming was his extreme pride in anything personal, like his city, family, nation, or reputation. Pride, like many traits, is only commendable to a certain point. After that, it becomes prejudice. This led Nathaniel to hastily judge others through the lens of his personal biases. For example, even before meeting Jesus, his first question to Philip was if anything good could come out of Nazareth. But with that said, Nathaniel was not stubborn, and he could change his mind like he did with Jesus as soon as he looked into his face. Nathaniel, the apostle's singular genius, blended dreamy philosophy with a grounded practicality. He could swing from being serious and intellectual one moment to telling jokes and stories the next. When at his finest, Nathaniel was the best storyteller of them all, and Jesus enjoyed talking with him, whether serious or not. Over time, Nathaniel gave importance to Jesus, his mission, and the kingdom of heaven, even if he never took himself seriously. Nathaniel most esteemed Jesus' divine tolerance, his expansive sympathy, and his universal broad-mindedness. Save for Judas Iscariot, Nathaniel won the love and esteem of his fellow apostles, fostering harmony among them. Judas's problem related to Nathaniel's attitude. He did not think that Nathaniel was taking his job seriously. At one point, Judas even went so far as to go to Jesus secretly and complain about Nathaniel. After listening to Judas, Jesus scolded him a bit, saying, "Judas, be careful and watch your step. Do not over-magnify your office. Who of us is competent to judge his brother? It is not the Father's will that his children should only do the serious things in life. Let me repeat, I have come that my family in the flesh may have more abundant joy, life, and happiness. Go and do the work that has been entrusted to you, and do it well. But leave Nathaniel, your brother, to make his account for God." Judas had too much pride, and he did not appreciate being chastised by Jesus. This memory of those and many other events continued to taint Judas's heart right up until the end. There were many times when Jesus was away on the mountain with John, Peter, and James that issues between the other apostles would become heated to the point that even Andrew was not sure how to relieve the tension. It was times like this when Nathaniel would come up with a flash of good humor or a bit of appropriate philosophy to bring everything back to balance. Nathaniel's job was to take care of everyone's families. This meant he could not attend all of the conferences between Jesus and the apostles, because whenever something happened, he would immediately have to leave, go to that home, and handle the problem. Nathaniel performed his duties well, and all of the others rested securely, knowing that their families were in safe hands. After Pentecost and the death of his father, Bartholomew, Nathaniel left for India and Mesopotamia, baptizing believers and spreading the good news of the kingdom of heaven. He was not part of organizing the religion that arose after Jesus was killed, and none of the others ever knew what happened to their poet, humorist, and philosopher. But Nathaniel was a remarkable man in the kingdom, and he did much to spread Jesus' teachings before he died in India. Okay, folks, that was part 3 of 5, chapter 18, the 12 Apostles. Up next, part 4, coming soon in the playlist. Hit like and subscribe. Grab your copy of Son of Man, Urantia on Amazon. And let's all live out Jesus' message of love, mercy, and forgiveness, uplifting one heart at a time. Bobby Keyser, out here.